Hey everybody, I'm Scott Butwell and welcome to my YouTube channel. I just got done writing a memoir style story for the memoirist. You could call it creative nonfiction, you could call it a personal story. And I see on Medium all kinds of personal stories. It's probably, the number one topic you see on Medium besides writing about Medium. And the thing I've noticed in reading personal stories on Medium is sometimes there's a really, really good story there, but it feels like how the writer tells the story is not really good. It doesn't really bring out the full potential of the story. And I think the solution is going back to your high school English class. So I'm going to take you back real quick to your high school English class. I'm a high school English teacher. Here we are back in high school. Does this look familiar? A story should start out with the inciting incident, and then it should build with some rising action or progressive complication. It should lead to a climax, then it has some little falling action, and then it leads to a resolution, something that you, if it's a personal story about you, learn. So you probably heard this, but you probably forgot it. We're going to talk a little bit more about this right now and how you can use this in writing a personal story. So you want to write a personal story on Medium. These 5 plot elements will really help you to tell that story. And I think for this video, I'm going to use an example from my friend J.F. Danskin. He has a great story I just read that's called Blue Leather Binder. And if you recall, the first element to plot structure is to have some kind of inciting incident. An inciting incident is where you have some kind of event that if it's a personal story, it turns your world upside down. So it's like a problem that's turning your world upside down. The rest of the story is you're trying to solve that problem. So let's take a look at Blue Leather Binder. And his inciting incident in his first sentence is, "We were only 8. And for reasons that remain hazy, Philip and I had both declared to our elementary school teacher, Miss Doyle, that we were poets." There you have it. 2 quick sentences that tell an inciting incident that they've told their teacher they're poets. And next, we're going to have the progressive complication. So you take that beginning and you start to build it, And so she says, "Great. We look forward to hearing some of your poetry." And basically what she does is she sets up a class poetry reading for the next day. And the interesting part about it is his friend, Philip, he has this blue leather binder. And after class, he opens it up and he shows that he's got page after page after page of poetry. Meanwhile, JF has nothing, So the second element in plot structure is progressive complication, which I was just talking about, right? The progressive complication, the teachers tell him, "Hey, great, let's have this poetry reading." Then after class, Philip is opening up his binder. He's showing him all these really accomplished, polished poems. And JF is probably thinking in his head, "Oh my gosh, man, what did I get myself into? I've never written a poem," right? So you see how the inciting incident, saying you're a poet, builds to this increased tension and stress in JF, because now he's got to realize, I got to deliver, man. She set up this poetry reading the next day and I've got nothing at this point, right? So the plot structure is designed to kind of build you from inciting incident, progressive complication, where your plot's kind of complicating. It's also known as rising action. Your plot is rising. And the main part of a story, and it's a really bummer if you don't have this part. It's really frustrating to me when I kind of, start reading a story and you get up there and it's just kind of a little small, little tiny bit of a climax, but not really a fully developed climax. So third part there is the climax. And the climax is really where you, in a personal story, are dealing with that inciting incident, that thing that, that problem that's turned your world upside down. Now you are trying to kind of come face to face with it and try to overcome that problem. So with JF, he goes home, and basically his climax is he's in his bedroom. He's got the, pencil, line, notebook, paper. He's never written a poem, and now he's got to write some poetry. And if you guys know, that's not easy when you're 8 years old, as JF was. You don't really know anything about poetry, and he's trying to, copy other styles of poetry, trying to take some song lyrics and try to make it into a poem, But the climax to me is really important. You really want to, focus in on the meaning, of, really focusing on what you're learning about dealing with that particular problem. So I like JF's climax. I'm trying to find it here. I do remember it, so I'm just going to go off the dome here. And he basically finds out that his poems are kind of terrible, but what he learns is he's writing something that's not assigned to him as classwork, that's not given to him as homework, but it's something that belongs to him. He's basically finding his voice of creating something and being proud of it, right? And that's really what the story is about. You know, it's like the birth of a writer. So you see this plot structure, how it goes from inciting incident, rising action, to this moment where he's, you know, kind of facing a problem, you know, that he's got to write a poem. And he's basically learning something there, right? That he can write something that he's, you know, happy to create. That's his own. All right, the last two parts are called falling action. I'll be honest, I teach ninth grade students, and we do a narrative writing unit, and most of the people, including myself a lot of times, I'll forget the falling action. But the falling action is just taking the climax, and it's kind of like a little event or two that leads to the resolution, right? So the the falling action is something that, you know, it's not like an essential key part of the story, but it is good to have like a little bridge between your climax and your resolution. And the resolution, let's talk about that, is where you show what you learned. And, you know, you kind of have to dig down and drive down deep to really say, whatever topic you're writing about, what did I really learn about this? You know, so I'm writing one today, and I'm still sitting on my, you know, resolution. I turned it in to the memoirist, and my brother was the editor. You know, he said, hey, you know, this ending, and, you know, it's okay. It has like some subtle shifts in the thinking of the character, but he felt like it could be a little deeper and, you know, have more of a bang to the end. So I'm thinking about it, and I think endings are hard, you know, because, you know, you have to really kind of say, hey, what is it that I learned? And I think a lot of times it's all about just kind of thinking and going deeper in your thinking to really say, hey, what is this experience or event that I've had? What does it really mean? You know, so that's not always easy to do. Here's JF's resolution. He says, these were my first few lines of something from within, something that was my own. And one day, a binder to call my own. I feel basically this story is about, this is the birth of himself as a writer, that he wants to create a collection like his friend Philip, you know, who has that, you know, binder of all of his poems. So he's saying that something happened when he wrote those first poems. They weren't really great, but it created in him a desire to create that binder of his own. Then his last two sentences, he says, well, Philip may have been a little smug about his own writing. We're all a little smug about our writing, aren't we? We all think we're great when we write a good story. He showed me the way that day, almost 40 years ago. So this is like a little tribute to his friend Philip, you know, because Philip was the real poet, right? He was the one that really had the binder. He's the one that really was the real poet when they told their teacher that they were poets. And so this is like a little tribute to a little honor to his friend Philip from that day long ago. And then JF ends with, I wonder if he's still writing now. Just like JF is still writing, he's lost touch with Philip, but he's wondering. You know, so that's just a nice way to close it, just kind of a natural ending, a thought from the author. But really the resolution is this birth of JF as a writer. So hopefully you could see there, just looking at JF's story, that there's an inciting incident. There's this rising action of seeing, you know, his friend's binder is really a key element in that story because it makes him want to have a binder of his own. And then there's that climax, right? There's that being in his bedroom and having to produce a poem. And even if it's no good, he creates something that is his own, right? And then falling action, like I said, not the most biggest deal, but the resolution is really important. People, when they get to that end of your story, they want to see something you learned. They want to see you, you know, kind of dig down deep inside you and tell the meaning of the subject that you've been writing about. So I think he definitely does that. So you can see, hopefully, these 5 different plot elements really bring out the story of your story. And if you listen to your story, if you kind of write it and then revise it and see that you have these 5 different elements, it really brings that story out. It really makes that story be told in such more of a powerful way. So how you tell your story, that's really what these plot elements are about. It helps you to tell your story in a much more, you know, dramatic and interesting way that's going to make that story come alive. So I hope you got something out of this video. The next time you write a personal story, hopefully you're thinking of fray tags, triangle, or plot structure Thank you for watching this video, and if you want to receive more helpful, actionable tips to improve in the craft of writing, especially for online writing, but also for offline writing, don't forget to click on that notification button. Happy writing, everybody.